This video is for any business leader or business owner who wants to greatly increase their probability and rate of success. This is actually part 2 of a 2-part series, so I'd recommend you go back and see part 1 because this is based on the O.C.E.A.N or Big 5 personality traits, and the first 2 that I describe are in the first video. Besides, there's an important and shocking statistic you'll learn there about the rate of executive self-awareness. So if this video is valuable to you, it would be wonderful if you could share it. But even more than that, it would be wonderful if you could watch some of the other videos. As I said, it makes sense to watch part 1 of this and all that other stuff. Like and subscribe, but mainly watch more and share as I'm learning from the algorithm. Okay, so yesterday I talked about how from the Big 5 personality traits, which are openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, that all of them taken to either extreme, either too high or too low, is normally a bad thing. And that's true, but upon reflecting on it, it seems it's pretty hard to be too conscientious. So I would love to hear if anybody has any thoughts sort of against that or different than that. But as a general rule, it's pretty hard to find somebody who says, you know, I hate it when people keep their promises. I hate it when people honor their commitments. The only thing I could think of perhaps is that being too conscientious in that is micromanaging and following up with people who themselves have low conscientiousness, that is pestering people. Other than that, I don't know. I would love to hear something in the comments if anybody has a counterpoint to that. But of the Big 5 personality traits, you can go too extreme on the other 4, but conscientiousness, other than what I just mentioned, I don't see how you can do it. You can probably just max out on conscientiousness, and that's going to be a great leadership trait and help you succeed a whole bunch. So in this article is basically self-awareness is talked about in a management, what did they say? In the article, Self-Awareness, A Key to Better Relationship, published by the MIT Sloan Management Review website, said of 75 members of the Stanford Graduate School of Business Advisory Council rated self-awareness as the most important capability for leaders to develop. So that was pretty chunky reading. Sorry about that. I'm not doing it over. I do 1 a day. They're not going to be perfect. So let's talk about this then. So what I did in the first video is I described myself. That is, I self-assessed on the Big 5 personality traits. That's why the first 2 are in the first video, and I'll do the last 3 in this. And I start with myself because I'm the only person I know who I've actually assessed on this, not formally, but have done. So the next one for me is extroversion, and I am very extroverted, perhaps ultra or too extroverted. So this goes to those extremes. If you're too extroverted and you become too familiar with people too fast, or you're too outgoing, especially people who are low in extroversion, that could really make them want to step back or not deal with you at all. It can really be intimidating, and it can kill a relationship or a deal faster than almost anything. That said, being extroverted to an optimal point, which is more towards the high side, is probably very desirable for most leaders, but there are leaders who are very introverted and very successful at doing so. They probably need, or probably should have, somebody to balance that off. They need, especially if they're talking about live events, that they may need to have somebody who can facilitate making them the proxy life of the party, the proxy networker, to make the most of that event. Also, Extroverts can think of it in this way. I know, introverts can think of it in this way. I know an introvert who I was surprised to find out she was an introvert. And she says, well, I'm very introverted, but I'm contextually so. I can go to an event, a social event, and be a social butterfly. So you can either learn that skill or you can get somebody on your team who's close to you who becomes your proxy high extrovert. Other than that, I think if you're too introverted or too low in your extroversion and do nothing about it, that is likely going to harm your success as a leader. It's not bad, it's just you have to acknowledge it and work with it and manage that component. Okay, so then the next one is agreeableness. And here's where this can be bad, just like either one. If you're too agreeable, you could be gullible and people-pleasing and kind of pathetic doorstop. And if you're not agreeable enough, well, it comes under that Huggy Rau's no asshole rule. And you're going to have a hard time forming relationships. So you want to be somewhere in the, or you want to strive to be somewhere not on either extreme. For myself, I'm low agreeableness. That doesn't mean I'm an asshole. It doesn't mean I spend all my time disagreeing with people. It more or less means that I won't agree just because you want me to. I will agree when I see evidence or if I already have formed an opinion and agree. And if I don't, I will tell you so. I'm a very scientific guy, and somebody telling me, oh, do this, it works. It's like, yeah, maybe. I'm not going to be convinced just because you said it. So this is actually a good trait for somebody. If you are high agreeableness, it's probably an advantage for you to have somebody like me on your team, because and somebody close to you who is low in agreeableness, because otherwise you're going to agree with everything and get sucked into a lot of nonsense that doesn't necessarily do your business good and takes time away from things that would. So if you're low agreeableness like me, you have to be on guard. You either have to know when to bite your lip, because people don't always want to know the truth. In fact, I would say people mostly don't want to know the truth, but it's super valuable for people to have that honesty. This is especially true if you have somebody who is in your orbit, in your advisors. If you're high agreeableness, you should have some low agreeableness person to tell you when you're being an idiot. But just to give an illustration, and yeah, I meant that. When I was a child, I don't remember this. This was before my memory, but my mother told me this many years ago. When I was a child and my mom would put me to bed, she would put me in bed. She would say goodnight. I would say goodnight. I love you. Get out. And to me, this is hilarious. It's shocking, but it's hilarious. And that's consistent with that lower agreeableness trait of mine, right? And like I said, this isn't a bad thing. This is somebody who can challenge you on your ideas and keep you grounded. So I thought that was very interesting, because though I don't remember it, I could see myself saying it. This would have been 2 or 3 years old, whenever you start speaking, but before 4 or 5, because I don't remember it. So that's an interesting thing. Of course, again, extremely low agreeableness is going to be just as bad or worse. So you need to balance it out with another person, or with developing your self-awareness of when it's not appropriate to be that way, to be socially calibrated. And the last one is neuroticism. And this one, the name sucks. It should be sensitivity or passion or emotionality, because that's really what it is. It means that people feel their feelings more intensely, not that they're crazy. On the extreme, probably, but not on the extreme, good. And typically it's probably more advantageous to have low neuroticism, but I'm a high neurotic. I feel things. I'm an emotional, passionate person. So I need to balance that off and be able to step back or have somebody do that for me. So here's the ultimate solution I promised in the previous video, and that is that to really improve your own self-awareness, do what I described here, but do it for yourself. That is, do your own self-assessment using the big 5 personality traits of the openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. And when you do that, be very, very honest with yourself. I would write it down. Then the next step in this 3-step process is to ask somebody who knows you very well, who you can't fire, to do the same big 5 personality trait rating. Do not share any details of what you've done. Do your own and then explain or send them to a website, send them here, whatever it is, so that they understand the big 5 personality traits. They're not that hard to understand. And then have them give brutally, lovingly honest feedback on your personality traits. Then once that's finished, and like I said, this is somebody you can't fire, because especially if you're high neuroticism, you might get very upset and think this person is suddenly your enemy for the short term and act rashly. So be aware of that. Get someone who you can't fire. Do this thing, have them do it. Thank them profusely for their honesty. And now you know, once you've taken a look at this and any broad disconnects between their assessment of your 5 personality traits and your assessments, the wider that gap is, the less self-aware you currently are. But that's good news, because now what you can do is, as I said, you should thank them profusely for their honesty. And then you can now, knowing the difference between an outside view of your personality traits and your personal view of personality traits, you can become more self-aware, learn what to triple down on and what to get help, support, or another person to balance you off on. That's it for Crush It Club 139, Master Self-Awareness, Part 2. My name is Tim B. Green. Bye for now.